I want to apologize to people who were waiting for me at 1 a.m. this morning to participate in the debate with Pedro, the Christian. Now, I did technically correctly note in my diary that the debate was to take place on 31st December. Unfortunately, I forgot to remind myself on the 30th of December to stay up until 1 a.m. the next day in order to participate in this in this debate, and I'm afraid I completely missed it. I really apologise. Obviously, this was some inadequacy of diary making on my part. I also assumed that I would be up. I usually am up at that time of night, but because of Christmas, my routine was altered, and I have been over Christmas reading my Christmas presents, and I just had a different kind of routine, and that was why I missed it, and I apologise profoundly, profusely, sincerely for missing the date and any disappointment that must have caused. I hope it can be rescheduled at the convenience of Pedro and whatever channel that was. Was it politically provoked? I'm not even sure now what that channel was. So I do apologise. Oh yes, it was on the Crucible. Silly me. Yes, of course it was the Crucible. But I was listening to Politically Provoked and yesterday, and I heard the meltdown that CT and OV were having with each other. So I guess I was sort of slowly getting back into the swing of things, and yeah, I guess I am slowly forgetting the trivia that is now part of the alt-right. The drama with OV and CT was on Politically Provoked. It was a rather long stream. I think the action starts around the 7.5 hours. I haven't been keeping up to date with any of the other streams either. So I'm completely out of touch. I didn't imagine that anything important was said. Have there been any decent exchanges on millennial? I haven't been keeping up with that at all, I'm afraid. So if anybody wants to tell me about anything being said that was interesting, profound, radical, revolutionary, of interest, then please let me know. Happy Christmas Eve. Sorry, Happy New Year's Eve. Oh my goodness. I am a little vague today. Yeah, I actually heard the exchange between OV and CT because some gossip told me about it, and it's like nothing. So basically, what OV said was, so I'm in touch with a 13-year-old on Discord playing video games, and culture couldn't be expected to understand this sort of thing because he doesn't play video games. So there's obviously a subculture, people playing video games and getting um, connecting with each other through Discord. I have been on Discord and I am um, no longer taking an interest in Discord because one of the more disturbing things about Discord is that you keep bumping into minors and you don't really want to be talking to them because you could be accused of all sorts, right? No, I mean, okay, anyone talking to anyone is grooming these days, is it? What does that mean? Grooming. I mean, grooming in the traditional sense of the word is, well, making sure that you look okay before you step out into the public sphere, such as, having combed your hair and shaved your face if you need shaving, put on makeup if you need putting on makeup. It's that sort of thing. Now grooming is used in this terrible sense of the word, in that any adult being nice to a child could be grooming him for sex a little later, and then it could be used for, well, could it be used for courtship? If a man is nice to a woman with a view to, well, having sexual relations with her as a wife or not as his wife, who knows? So it would depend on the nature and purpose of these exchanges. But, well, we meet all kinds of people online that we might even know quite intimately, in the sense of people online that we meet have a different kind of relationship with us, don't they? They might not tell us certain things if we were in a face-to-face situation with them, but if they know that, well, on the other side of the world, on a different continent, separated by an ocean, lots of things might come out that wouldn't ordinarily come out, and that kind of relationship might be what one might say is intimate. But if nothing actually happens, or if nothing, in the exchange would be considered illegal, then why assume the worst? But this is what so many people like doing, and that's why people identifying themselves as nationalists can't really organise so much as a piss up in a brewery. And this is why things don't work. And I've been trying to explain the problem for years and years and years, but nobody listens to me. Yes, it's a shame. You see, what Gary Garner says, as an adult male, I find it awkward to even walk past a child in today's society, let alone say hello. I think, okay, I remember somebody reporting an incident in the 70s when things were not quite so mad, and there were incidents of men, traditional men, who decided they should sort out some delinquent adolescent, and that delinquent adolescent would accuse him of being some kind of pervert. So that would be the quickest way of dealing with some masculine male trying to stop your juvenile delinquency. So unfortunately, men have now been derogated to a position of being either subservient to women or being potentially a sex offender. So I think this is really what we need to consider. Obviously, I'm not white, and I'm neither white nor male, but I think even if you're neither white nor male, the position of white men in their own countries ought to be a concern for you, if you care about these things such as governance and authority. Because if you live in a country that you are not, in fact, a part of the majority, um, your safety, your security, is obviously reliant on those who are in charge to look after your interest. Um, and if they can't even look after their own interests, then they won't be looking after your interests. So this is not something for non-whites and non-men to laugh and gloat about, because ultimately it is the men of any society who are expected to sort things out. If there's any trouble, they're the ones expected to defend their territory. They're the ones expected to deal with unruly delinquents and subversives. So it would be in the national interest for the people who are supposed to be in charge to actually be in charge and be given the status and rights in order to do what the hell they're supposed to do. So that is basically my position on the matter, and that is why I take an interest in the affairs of Western men in the West, when I am not myself either male nor white. There will be quite a few people who are not male and not white who will be living in the West, even as it collapses. We won't all be easily flying home or even have homes to fly to. And this is really why I do what I do. Unfortunately, nobody listens to me, and I actually don't know what has been said on Millennial. I mean, the few exchanges that I've heard so far have been just prolonged whinging. Has anybody talked about anything important, any ideas, proposals, solutions, other than complaining and blaming and talking about COVID and not really proposing any kind of solution that would necessarily be controversial? And therefore be criticized. This, I presume, is because of the feminized nature of Western man, that he no longer feels able to deal with any controversy, and all he can do is do the equivalent of having cozy little circles of ladies who lunch and drink tea and never disagree with each other, because they know how nasty they could be to each other. I'm not part of that circle, thank goodness. And if I were, I would still say what I believe to be the truth, because it's such an adventure. It's been such an adventure for me to basically say what I believe to be the truth and see where it takes me. And it's taken me to a lot of dark places, chief of which is um, the minds of neurotic Western men who, I don't know, whose labyrinthine paths could be equated to the labyrinth where this fictitious, this mythical monster called Minos dominated. Let's have a look at the labyrinth. God, I have no idea I was going to say this, but hopefully there'll be some resolution to my failure to participate in the debate. Hopefully it will be rescheduled. So anyway, um, the story of the Minotaur who was killed by Theseus. The Minotaur was half bull, half man, and located at Knossos in Crete. It was built by the inventor Daedalus for King Minos. So his wife basically was cursed. Now he was cursed with a wife who fell in love with a bull, and Daedalus, this inventor, created this thing that made her look like a cow so she could mate with the Minotaur. No, not the Minotaur, with a bull. And she gave birth to the Minotaur. I think that's how the story goes. So basically, the labyrinth is a maze, and I'm saying that the mind of the neurotic Western man is labyrinthine, and I've had to negotiate this, and it is not just me, figuring out what went wrong with your moral and political system. It is like I have to deal with your neurosis. And obviously, it'll never end because there's so many neurotic people above me who will never admit the truth. There's actually a statue of this contraption that Daedalus invented with a woman inside it to be mated with by the bull who became the Minotaur. And so why was King Minos of Crete cursed? Because he basically tried to fool the gods with sacrifices. I don't mind trying to get the story right before I tell it to you. Anyway, he's the Minotaur has the head and tail of a bull and the body of a man, part man and part bull. And the Minotaur was killed by the Athenian hero Theseus. And basically, I think the Athenians were supposed to sacrifice boys and girls to the bull. And Theseus was the Athenian, and he killed the bull, so he was an Athenian hero for this reason. So now I'm going to tell you the story of how Minos ended getting cursed by Poseidon. After ascending the throne of the island of Crete, Minos competed with his brothers as ruler. Minos prayed to the sea god Poseidon to send him a snow-white bull as a sign of the god's favor. Minos was to sacrifice a bull to honor Poseidon, but owing to the bull's beauty, he decided instead to keep him. Minos believed that the god would accept a substitute sacrifice. To punish Minos, Poseidon made Minos' wife, Pasiphae, fall in love with the bull. Pasiphae had the craftsman Daedalus fashion a hollow wooden cow which she climbed into in order to mate with the bull. The monstrous Minotaur was the result. Pasiphae nursed the Minotaur, but he grew in size and became ferocious. As the unnatural offspring of a woman and a beast, the Minotaur had no natural source of nourishment and thus devoured humans for sustenance. Minos, following advice from the oracle at Delphi, had Daedalus construct a gigantic labyrinth to hold the Minotaur. Its location was near Minos' palace in Knossos. So there you go. You've got the story now. I had two novels by Barbara Pym. I know you probably haven't heard of her. She's sort of very English, very middle class. She was born in 1940, I think. Let me just check. Father was a solicitor. She was quite clever. She got into St Hilda's in Oxford, and she basically wrote about middle class preoccupations. But she's very funny. I guess you would call her the Jane Austen of the 20th century. She died in 1980. No, I think she's rather older than that. She was born in 1913. Yeah, born in 1913, and she died in 1930. Philip Larkin liked her. So that's what I've been reading, and I've got a third book to read, which is by Paula Byrne, which is a biography of her, which I do intend to read. Since nothing is really happening, I guess I will have time to read it all. I'm nearly finished the second one now, and I would say that her writing style is particular. This thing about Jane Austen being she doesn't write like a woman. In fact, I remember a conversation between the Bloomsbury group, who are also writers, who discussed members of their group and saying, "Oh, Ian Forster, who's gay, you'll know, writes like a woman, but Jane Austen writes like a man," and Barbara Pym, I suppose her preoccupations would be considered womanish in that she talks about things that women would know about because they would be left with going to church and pecking order fights like who's going to do the flowers and vicars and curates and I guess English things like that of a bygone era, and she writes mainly about spinsters. She was a spinster, and basically writes about the I guess the concerns of middle class English people who weren't lucky, like the women who weren't pretty or didn't get married, and also of bachelors, because I guess you would be mixing around with those kinds of people, and so she has a very great knowledge of the thinking processes and the lives of such people. Of lonely, forgotten, lower status people, people who didn't have children and grandchildren. And I think she is really a wonderful writer. And it's the economy with which she just lets the thoughts of any of her characters without her novels are short, basically, and fun to read, in my view. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah, I mean, Stephen James says novels. Ugh, but really, I haven't been reading novels for so long. So when I picked that up, it was like, wow, it's such fun. It's great to read novels just for the, fun of it. When for quite a while, I was thinking, oh, life's too short. Life's too short to be reading novels. But when you pick up a good one, the pleasure is all absorbing. So that's what I've been. That's a kind of fun I've been having. And the other thing is yes, I've been having, other interactions with other people offline, which is refreshing. Um, I suppose I could tell you about the conversation I had with my mother. Um, I find myself I find myself thinking of um, Alistair Cook, who used to do this sort of series on Radio 4, a letter from America, and I kind of feel like I'm doing a kind of letter from London when I explain to my mother, who's basically, permanently tuned in to Sky News about what's happening in the country. And I think a lot of the times I don't know about you lot, but for me, when I try to explain something to somebody, I find myself arriving on a new truth, as if it were a revelation. So I have been basically trying to explain to my mother the source of the neurosis of Western man and woman, and obviously, this is to do with the governance that he is getting, and so I've explained basically that Christianity is kaput, and that actually, well, Chinese people don't really follow Confucian principles. And Confucius lived and died 500 years before Jesus was born. Um, but what I think gives the Chinese their identity is that they have this figure called Confucius, and they can quickly read up his stuff and say, well, Confucius, he said, whatever he said, and he said it pretty succinctly, and so you can basically remember a whole bunch of his ideas by um, references to his little ideas or his big ideas, such as rectification of names and the sort of things he talk about, and then you can just sort of feel really Chinese and really learned and know what it is you are supposed to do and think as a honourable, humane Chinese person. And then you can talk about legalism, which came after Confucius, because Confucius basically was a political scientist who told the king, the Duke of Zhou, really, that was what he worked for. He was a failure in his lifetime when he, well, basically nobody listened to him, and he kept handing in his notice and having to leave because what he told the Duke of Zhou to do. The Duke of Zhou said, "No, you're joking. I'm not doing that." And but anyway, he had a devoted following of students who thought there might be something in his teachings. So the most important thing, or what I can remember of what Confucius said to the king, which was the Duke of Zhou, was that you just have to be a good guy, and when you behave honorably, the people will love you, and they will just not want to offend you and want to please you, and that's how you should be, well, basically. And Chinese history has been the conflict between these, obviously idealistic um, principles of Confucius with legalism, and legalism is, well, there is this conflict, in that Chinese people like to think of themselves as Confucians, but they see the practicalities of politics, and that they will, in practice, be legalists, and see that the law is the algorithm for people. So as long as you can encourage people to do the right thing with the laws by, rewarding them for doing the right thing and punishing them for doing the wrong thing, you will kind of hopefully get the kind of society you want. But over the centuries, I think they did things badly, and that's why Chinese, the last imperial dynasty of China collapsed, because there was this very corrupting law that said, well, you might be found guilty of a capital crime, that, but if you're rich, you can buy your way out of it. You might be sentenced to incarceration, but you could buy yourself out of it if you pay the government X number of gold pieces or silver pieces or whatever. And obviously this was immensely corrupting, and then everybody ended up hating the emperor because, well, even if you could afford to pay your fine or get out of some trumped up capital offense, you wouldn't be enjoying. You wouldn't feel that you were enjoying, good government. And of course, if you were poor and couldn't afford to buy your way out of your punishments, then you would really hate the government and say, "Oh, it's one law for the rich and another for the poor." So, and then we all know that in the end, the Qing dynasty, which was the last imperial dynasty, collapsed and was replaced by, well, the ideas of a self-hating German Jew. I know from the limited reading I did of China in that time was that I couldn't talk to the Chinese at all. They were just neurotic. They just couldn't face the fact that their ancient and wonderful civilization was coming to an end. The Japanese were invading them, the Europeans were kicking them around and just annexing parts of China and converting the Chinese to Christianity. It was insufferable, and then they tried to kick them out, and they didn't quite succeed, and ended up having to be punished further. And well, it was a terrible time for China and then it got worse with the civil war between the Kuomintang and the Chinese Communist Party. Anyway, we know what happened. They ended up having a one-party state, and they are, and the only thing that they extracted from Marxism is this of historical materialism, and it's obviously true. Historical materialism is obviously true in that people attach themselves to ideas, and then they take sides. Obviously, as communists, they would, you decide you're communist, and then you fight with the communists against capitalists, or whatever it is you're fighting about, Catholicism and Protestantism or whatever. And eventually there's a winner, and then a further split will come up, and then you'll have another fight again, and it'd be monarchy and republicanism, and or whatever it is, from age to age and time to time. And so historical materialism is self-evidently true. It is a truism, and it's wide enough to make it universally true of anything. You can fit any culture war into the category of historical materialism. And they say, yeah, it's Marxist. It's Marxist, and we are Marxists. We are Marxists, and we are communists, and we believe in a people's democratic dictatorship. So it's it has a certain coherence and truth about it. It is operating in the minds of Chinese people. They have a one-party state, and they're jiggling around with their constitution and their I mean, there are two constitutions, a constitution for the people of China, as well as a party constitution, and of course a party constitution of the Chinese Communist Party is the most important thing of all. It is a complicated mechanism that powers the cogs of the three supremes. So the three supremes of China are the party, the people, and the constitution. And obviously, there's already something a little, dodgy about the three supremes. It sounds like, I don't know, it makes me think of, the 3 Degrees, or, Diana Ross and the Supremes, and Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and that sort of thing. And obviously, you can't 3 of you be supreme. You have to be, well, one of you has to be supreme, and you can't all be supreme. I mean, this is the logic of supremacy. But they've got some Chinese intellectual who's managed to persuade the Chinese government, at least, that this is how it's going to work, and it is obviously not true. And I guess what the Chinese are doing now is dealing with the problem of being atheist, you see. So we already know that Marxism is atheist. We know that Marx regarded religion as the opium of the people, and he didn't want any of it. And the Chinese, if they're going to be calling themselves proper Marxists, they have to be observing some of the principal tenets of Marxism, and obviously take into account its atheism. And anyway, you can't really tell, if you're an atheist, who is supreme. I think on the one hand, we as a country need a constitution for us to follow the rules, so we know who we are and what we're supposed to do. But then, for whose benefit is this constitution? It must be for the people, but the people don't know what they want. So who's going to tell them what they want? It's going to be the party, and who can belong to the party? There will be a separate section of the rules that may be a little harder to understand and explain, and they also change it from time to time, so nothing is permanent. So we have to take into account all these tensions, but at least in China they're trying hard to try and make the theory and the practice move closer together. Not so the West, and this will ultimately be the ruination of it, because when people see that you do not practice what you preach, when they see that you tell lies every time you move your lips, then nobody's going to believe you, and you will end up like the boy who cried wolf, whose sheep ended up being all eaten, and was he eaten himself by the wolves? I don't know, but it's not a good lookout if nobody trusts each other. And that is why, this idea of trust and confidence, they may be abstract ideas, but really we need these ideas for our society to work. What if nothing is certain? What if every question you ask, the answer is always maybe? You'll just drive yourself crazy. So we want to avoid this sort of situation, but unfortunately, this is precisely the situation in the West. And you may think I have no influence at all, and I would actually agree with you, but it doesn't mean that I think that what I have discovered is wrong. All the stuff that I see, all the reactions that I have from those around me, my associates, my friends, would tend to confirm the truth of my theory that the rule of law is breaking down. Therefore, you need a new system of morality and politics. And so far, nobody is listening. So that's my problem. and it should be considered your problem too, since you live in it, um, and you have nowhere else to go, I guess. Um, you got 5 minutes, Stephen James. I've been rabbiting on, and well, if you want to talk about millennial, I think we should do it for more than 5 minutes anyway. Yes, yes, I know. I know it was Marvin Gaye and what's her name? I prefer the older version too. So, although some of you might have thought I'd gone quiet or given up, I guess I just wasn't going to bust a gut to um, talk to people unless they really did have something new to say. I was very happy to meet Justin Parker. Very impressive young man. I like, his whole persona that he wears a MAGA hat. He is talking a lot of sense. And I do welcome people who are not like me, agreeing with me. So, I'm not, being accused of only appealing to, other cracks like me, right? So, what I think is a tragedy of the breakdown of Western civilization is that it is really nothing more than social embarrassment that actually prevents you from doing what you need to do, which is saying what you need to say, obviously based on what you believe to be the truth. And you are also short-termers that you can't even bring yourselves to say something in case some bird frowns at you, or your friend gets cross at you because he thinks you've insulted him or whatever. So basically, what I've narrowed it down the problem to is really social embarrassment. None of you will talk in real life about the things I talk about, which you actually agree with me anyway. You agree with me, but you won't support me, and you won't talk about it to each other because you can pretend you're somebody else online. You are LARPing. You think it's enough just to express your views online anonymously, so you don't have any trouble in real life. And that's enough for you. You don't really want to change anything. You just want somebody else. It's enough for you that somebody, says what you really feel, and you're not going to support that person. And that's why Trump didn't win, right? Because nobody would support him. They might all agree with him, but they expected Trump to be like Nanny, clearing up the mess and sorting everything out. While they are like children, sitting there, in their soiled nappies, sucking their thumbs, expecting Trump, an old man, to sort all that shit out and drain the swamp all by himself without offering him their support. So I mean, this is what happens when you are matriarchy, and in a matriarchy, all men are low in status than the unmarried mother, and therefore all men are feminized and infantilized, and they expect the matriarchy to do something about it. Unfortunately, no. If you do the equivalent of putting children in power, don't expect the children to eventually correct themselves and do things properly. No, no, no. You have got to, well, regain control of the ship of state, and unfortunately, you're too feeble, too demented, too amnesiac, and too frightened, too skinned, and too stupid to organise so much as a piss up in a brewery, and you're just, and the most that you want really before your lives are snuffed out is to go to your grave saying, oh, well, at least I managed to die before secular Quranism was adopted. And that's all you want to do. I know that. You're not going to admit there was anything ever wrong with Christianity. You're not going to admit that what replaced Christianity, which was liberalism, is also kaput. And that's why you are suffering from the double whammy of a failed moral and political system, and now you're just laughing and not even discussing what the problem is, let alone the solution. And this is basically, you know, the path of the labyrinth of the mind of the neurotic Western man. Now Stephen James seems, oh, I put myself on camera. Yeah, all we see is your legs. Did you want to come on Karani U? Well, since you're here, well, okay. There it is. There's a link. Or you want to arrange a better time? Because I'd like to hear a review of all the other ones. I hear the Morgoth one is quite good, or it wore millennial. It wore out Colin apparently. So I don't know how long it took. I guess it was one of those sort of marathon ones. All right, Sunday afternoon it is. I've seen that. Okay, we'll arrange it on email, and I will finish speaking and complete this stream because I've finished saying what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. I hope that the debate on the Crucible can also be rearranged. And again, my apologies to Pedro and to Andrew for failing to attend. Oh, here he comes. It's so pornographic, you know.
What's going on, Claire?
Well, you've come on. That's what's going on.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah?
I can hear you fine. You're watching something. What are you watching?
That's actually my channel. It's super narcissistic, isn't it?
Right. Yeah,
my
you
channel.
You worked out the thing that allows you to watch YouTube on your big screen.
Yeah, it's on the pad here, and just wirelessly sends it to the thing there. But anyway, lots of people are really pestering me about coming on Cranial more than you, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I just found myself surprisingly busy. And is this just a preliminary? I mean, we're going to do it properly on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm certainly up for doing it properly. I mean, I am free Sunday or sometime next week, if it's good for you. I really only have like 5 or 10 minutes right now. That's why I just put that in the chat there. I thought I'd just offer it, you know. I haven't spoken to you over Christmas. I've kind of been incommunicado. But have you been watching Millennial or my videos about Millennial? Don't say no.
I think I might have watched one or two, but I really haven't been watching Millennial at all. And I thought if I watched Stephen's videos, I might have some idea about what's going on because you will be reviewing them. But I haven't even really got around to watching your shorter videos.
I think they went down quite well, didn't they? Some of my videos, they've been quite popular.
Yes.
But it was kind of a little trick.
You're nearly up to 400, or you are at 400 subscribers now, aren't you?
I think so, actually. It goes up, it goes down. To be honest, I got most of my subscribers. I got about 50 from Thomas Barden Rees.
So which is the best millennial so far? I guess I kind of need to kind of talk about it in those terms.
It really depends because, I mean, it was mainly about COVID-19.
Oh,
So
that's so boring. I'm so bored
if
of
you're
it.
bored with that,
Uh,
it's not going to be of much interest. I do remember, Claire, I mean, it was hilarious, wasn't it? How you started Coranial when Millennial Woes was moaning about his Twitter. And
yes.
you identified that he did 50 streams and every one of them was 2 hours moaning about being kicked off Twitter. I thought that was hilarious.
But
Well,
I
this
suppose,
year it was 50 streams about COVID-19.
yeah, the thing is, you can't imagine him, going out that much anyway, because we know that he spent, years in his own bedroom, right? And that was how he started Millennial Woes. So he's not the sort of active. I gotta go hiking and shopping and clubbing and kind of guy. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just because.
In all seriousness, though, I think it has been a really good millennial. It's been probably the best of the lot.
Mhm.
I just decided early on, I thought, there's such a desert of alt-right content. It's like a wasteland out here. I just decided, maybe try and support the guy, try and drum up some support. He hasn't acknowledged any of it, so that's fine. I can deal with that.
Are you supposed to be on?
No, 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 not at all.
Really?
I'm
Oh,
just,
I thought that was the whole thing, that you're going to be on. That's why you're, so
oh no,
enthusiastically supporting him.
no, I'm a tadpole in the pond, Claire.
Uh, huh.
He doesn't even know who I am, so no
Well,
idea. Or he's pretending not to.
right. But which one do you think has been good so far? I guess I just wanted, if you've been watching all of them, which ones have you enjoyed, and why?
Okay, so the one I was most surprised about, the one that I think was the best, was the guy called Apostolic Majesty. And I made a video saying I was wrong about Apostolic Majesty because I made fun of him. I said he sounds like a Ponce, he's got a Ponce name, and I really regretted it because he is incredibly intelligent guy, very eloquent, and he gave his opinion because everybody is very confused about what's going on. What does all this? What's real? If you don't take the media narrative, the official line of COVID-19, then everybody's confused to try and explain it, aren't they? And he gave an analysis of the political situation. I thought it was really, really interesting. So that would be my pick. It's 2 hours
Mhm.
long, very very worth watching. Apostolic Majesty, and the other guy who was very personable, and he was quite somber but very watchable, was Martin Lichmez. I thought he was great, and of course last night it was Morgoth,
Mhm.
but that was about 4 hours long.
Mhm.
But that was entertaining.
Mhm.
I haven't watched them all though, so I can't really say.
Right.
Apostolic Majesty was a surprise, and I even made a video to apologise to the guy.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, I I mean, I did watch a few, and I was quite impressed with the oh, I can't even remember his name now, but he was the one talking about Bitcoin. I mean, he was the only one who kind of made me think, oh, maybe I don't know, that might be quite interesting. And I'm trying to remember his name, and then I think I subscribed to his Telegram um, group, and then I can't get it anymore because I think he said the N word or something, but I can still get it on my computer.
Was he
So,
called Carl? Carl T or something like that?
no, he was called
Bitcoin Carl? No.
no. I'm just trying to open this window, but it's taking a while. Um,
I'll be honest, I didn't watch the ones about crypto,
mhm.
because, in my opinion, as I think you watched at least one of my videos where I said, in my opinion, the people who are telling other people what to invest in or talking about it usually have an agenda, really. Yeah, either
Yeah,
holding crypto and I wanted to push the price up. I wanted to encourage other people to buy in because they're ready to dump theirs. So you want the highest price.
yeah.
Otherwise, you'd just be buying, wouldn't you?
That's what I thought. So I didn't pay any attention in the previous years. But this one is called Edgelord Investor, and it wasn't so much
Mm.
what he said about his crypto investments, but his analysis of the economic situation. And but that was one of the earlier ones before I kind of dropped out of following it. But you
Yeah,
probably don't remember him, do you? Because he was
I,
quite early on.
I didn't watch it. I remember not watching it actually.
Yeah, because
I
you're thinking, "Oh, I don't want to watch anything about
yeah.
investment." Yeah.
I also just think that all the economists have failed, haven't they? Recently, nobody can explain really how the economy is still ticking along. Everybody was expecting a crash at least this year. It still hasn't happened. So
Yeah. Well, just
everybody
because
who,
it hasn't happened doesn't mean, it hasn't. It won't ever happen.
for sure, I know, but I remember Alex Jones 10 years ago was saying that the dollar was going to collapse tomorrow.
Well, I think eventually it will when people say, no, we're not going to be buying our oil or gold or anything in the reserve currency. And this is basically what the rival empires are doing. They're gonna, they're creating their own currency and they're waiting for it to be eventually good enough. And then everybody say, hey, you want to buy, gold or oil? Well, we can buy in our currency. And don't be afraid because we're strong enough. We're not going to end up being like Saddam who got invaded because he was proposing to buy to sell oil in euros, if you remember that.
Yeah, and what wasn't it a gold dinar or something? Or he wanted
Yeah,
to
well,
move to the gold
Gaddafi was
standard.
was planning to do that.
Oh,
I
that
think
was Gaddafi.
yeah, because he was a pan-Africanist, right? He was saying, us in Africa, we can do it, and so we won't get picked up by the Western imperialists, and he
Mm.
got done over. But
Wasn't Gaddafi how you first made your like political name on Facebook?
well, I had a Colonel Gaddafi support group, and
Yeah,
at the time I could just add people, and I really had all these sort of celebs on my friends list. So I added them, and they
and then you got
complained.
in a bit of trouble for that, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I got global publicity, so it's reported in all the internet national media outlets, and even in in Spanish and German and whatever.
That
Um,
was quite a smart trick. You were playing the Facebook game kind of before they like got the rules in place, weren't you?
Well, I think a lot of the rules are kind of, evolved to sort of, maybe even deal with me because, then I got a lot of publicity and yeah, I was mentioned quite a lot by Hugh Muir in the Guardian, and then suddenly all dried out. It's like, I think there was a decree issued from on high saying you're not allowed to mention this woman ever again, or there'll be trouble for you. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And once I nearly, was on TV on a completely unrelated matter, and then it was cancelled at the last minute. And I think, is it something to do with the fact that it's me? Of course, I can't work it out. And once I spoke to a local paper, and I just mentioned my name, and they went, "Oh, it's you," and then it's like,
That woman.
yeah, yeah, and I thought it wasn't about politics that we were talking about, but it was kind of, you probably think there's probably unofficially a sort of a whole bunch of names that the newspapers are not allowed to report or only report in a certain way, and it's sort of like you're not even allowed to mention the name of this woman, even to mock her.
There might even be a clerk called D notice.
Maybe, maybe, but I think if it's ever lifted, then I think all the floodgates will open, and this is what I must hope for, basically, because um, I think my system has a lot to offer. Even a police state.
Well, we have that now already, Claire.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm
As
saying
I
just
say, it's
control it
logged in, isn't
in
it?
a different way. control it in a different way, and you will run it better, and you will be held in higher regard if you would just change the personnel in charge of it, because this is really, really unstable.
Yeah.
Did you watch a thing yesterday with Justin Parker?
I didn't. No.
Okay.
The video you uploaded.
Well,
Is that
it
right?
was really a kind of a mirror, a clip of his actual Facebook thing.
I did
So,
see I saw the thumbnail. I might even clicked on it.
oh, good.
What was that about? I only have a few minutes, but I have to go in a second.
Yeah. Well, it's basically about the matriarchy and how, things are being run to control men, and it's basically that angle really. But he wears a MAGA hat, which pleased me enormously, because I still want to be identified with those people really, because if anything's going to happen, it will come from that lot.
Well, possibly. I think Trump's going to run again, so you might get a chance. I think the MAGA movement's going to get refed some energy. It seems like the only option, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he's the last person that had any hope of doing something about it. So, even if he's unsuccessful, he would be, I guess, what people would say, the last great white hope. Even if it never happened. I mean, he was. I mean, we don't have anything like this in the UK, do we? I mean, there's no such person anywhere in the Western world.
No, certainly not with popular support. And in America, who could challenge him? Nobody. If he decides to run, it's his, isn't it?
Yeah, and if they dare to assassinate him or whatever, I mean, this will also, be a problem for them, because they kind of have to, watch it a little bit. If they are too obviously aggressive, then that they might be stirring up a hornet's nest.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, Trump they seem to be able to just curtail him, didn't they? Contain him anyway. He seemed to have no real power when he was in office, so they might even be quite comfortable with, having him back. Who knows? But
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
if he came back, I'm not exactly sure how American politics works. Does he then get the option to have another 2 terms, or is it 2 terms like at all, even if there's a space between?
We don't know, and I think I don't think anybody will be playing by the rules anymore, because it's so touch and go, and the problem is that without an official orthodoxy that most people subscribe to, everything is always going to be 50-50. That's why we're so unstable here. It's like the people who want to go back into the EU again. So that's going to really piss off all the leavers. So like any big issue, it's always 50-50, and then we have COVID, cutting people into half again, political opinion into half again. So it's just becoming more unstable, and people becoming more distrustful, and
Yeah, I'll tell. Hey, now that you mentioned COVID, right? Everybody that I know in real life, pretty much almost everybody has got COVID all of a sudden in the last week or 10 days. It's crazy around here.
it's just have a cold. I mean, it's stupid.
Oh, I know, but I mean, testing positive or whatever that actually means. Like my next door neighbour, they have COVID. My next door neighbour's son and his family, he was going there today, but he can't now because they've all got COVID. There's a testing centre, the one that I actually took my dad to a month ago, and when we went, there was nobody there. It was just like deserted. But I passed it yesterday, and there was a pedestrian queue, not in cars, pedestrian queue all the way down the street. People queuing to get a test. I just think, what's happening? So just like suddenly gone crazy.
But
So
I
I
guess
don't know
it's
what's
because
going on.
it's all because it's Christmas. People want to they want to visit whoever, and people are making trouble, right? Um, when you think, oh, maybe it's my last Christmas with mum and dad, and mum and dad, it's like, can I come and see you? But only if you have the COVID test,
Oh
you know.
God, yeah.
And then there might be something like, hey sis, did you have your COVID test? But I don't want you to be killing mum and dad. And so everything's just gonna get worse. And really, the way I just can't believe I'm always, saying this to Europeans. It's like, you suffer the Black Death, about 20 to 65% of Europeans died, and it wasn't a problem. You still, colonized the world and whatever. And so, why are you hiding, behind the sofa over something that's no more virulent than the Spanish flu? And the Spanish flu happened during World War One, right? And it's
Well,
only called the Spanish flu because Spain, because it was neutral, was allowed to report on it. Well, obviously, the Allies and the Germans weren't going to be talking about it because it would demoralize people even more. You know?
Well, I tell you what, I certainly agree with that assessment that it is a terrible showing for us. It is an
Yeah, yeah.
embarrassment.
It's just
I can't
enough.
imagine what the Chinese are thinking about us. They must look at us as being weak and feeble or stupid, because this idea that all of a sudden, we just can't let anybody die. It is a terrible indictment of us. We've gone suddenly neurotic about protecting everybody, no matter even if they were predicted. People like stage 4 cancer, they can't die anymore. People who are 90 years old, they can't die anymore. It's gone really crazy, hasn't it?
Well, it's a neurosis of atheism accompanied by, always prioritizing the feminine preference, which is to wrap everything up in cotton wool, because a woman feels, really important. I've got 10 children, I have to look after them. I'm such a martyr to my children, and that's how
I
women get
think you're right
frustrated.
about that. There is something about it is a feminized response, isn't it?
Yes, and it's always the female preference that is being prioritized, and this will eventually kill you. I mean, I'm not saying that the male preference should always be prioritized, because you're spending all your money on war and killing yourselves the other way. So I favor a gender balanced society, but you're not going to have a gender balanced society because of the way the politics of the West operates, because um, what all these different political parties do is that they they pander to the female voter in order to get votes, and they sort of know that if they pander to enough female voters, they will win the election. That's why I basically reject democracy. It's like, you're crazy if you're going to do this to yourself. As you still complain about women, and feminists, it's like they don't even have. You don't even have to have that sort of system to kill yourselves, basically, because all this sort of white knighting, and it happens amongst nationalists who are, supposed to know about feminism. It's like a lot of men just do it instinctively because they want to compete for the favors of women, even if it's just a smile, even if they don't even want to marry the woman, even when they're not even, you know, it is crazy. So it's like, oh, there's a lot going on behind, not even just the, conspiracy theories, but it's the unacknowledged neurosis, and that's really the scary bit, really.
Yeah, it is true.
Because
It
I
is
think if
true.
everybody
It
was
does
thinking
need a
straight,
strong
there would
man
be no
to. We need a strong man, don't we? Just to say, look, some people need to die. I'm saying that is verboten now, unfortunately, I think. But anyway, Claire, I'm got to go, got to dash there. It's been
Okay,
great
well,
to talk to
we'll
you.
talk to you on Sunday, and we can arrange a time, and then we'll schedule it. How about that?
Cool. All right.
All right.
Good to talk to you.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. See you later.
Good to talk. Bye bye.
Later, everybody. Bye.
Okay. I'll read. I see Ricardo is there. Oh, lots of talk about OV. Ricardo likes Stephen James and says Stephen James is his favourite internet character. Oh, so you think Millennial was better this year because everyone is the same? Okay, I'll have a listen to Apostolic Majesty. Ricardo Williams says, the dead giants have effectively sidelined Claire. She used to influence foreign policy and the day's news narratives. Now she streams to an audience of half a dozen intelligence agents. Well, these are in the government, I guess. Why is Stephen constantly showing us his bulge? I don't know. Every time I see Stephen, it's like, is his porn? I just sort of, just a flash, and you think, oh, legs. Oh. Okay, the ins and outs of the American Constitution. Oh, were you backstage? Sorry, Ricardo. I don't know. I feel I can't multitask too much. Maybe it's my masculine mind. I don't know. It's like, what I feel I have to give. If you want to come, you can. You can. I'm so sorry. I just feel I have to, totally concentrate on my guests. All right. So if Ricardo is not going to come back on again, I will finish by saying, by repeating my apology to the Crucible and Pedro, the Christian, who are disappointed by not reminding myself yesterday in my diary to tell myself that I must stay up until 1 a.m. this morning. But instead, earlier that evening, I just simply taken my novel to read in bed. And that was why, and then of course one thing led to another. I fell asleep and that was why I missed the debate, which I hope can be rearranged. So thank you everybody for listening, and a happy New Year's Eve to you.